Hello, my name is Sherry Miller, and we are here today because I am the Labor Relations Manager for Barrera Recycling Company, and we have recently dismissed an employee for improper safety regulations, and they were not following the regulations. However, we have received a grievance from the union saying they were fired without just cause. As we move on to our first slide of the presentation today, we need to be aware that the unions has said that the firing did not have cause. However, the firing of McNamara was legal, and this is the stance of the company, as we will discuss further in this presentation. Just cause is the proper and legal and validation of firing someone with reason. This has to be validated reasons, cannot be out of retaliation for anything that they might have said or any type of union actions. Within the next slide, we're going to understand that employment at will allows the firing of employees for misconduct, as discussed by Harcourt and Hannay. There were several instances where Ms. McNamara did have some misconduct in her actions at work. Several of those are after many verbal reprimands, and she understood the regulations because they were within her union contract. We still found her sleeping during the safety meetings, which means she would have missed updated safety regulations and things that she needed to work and keep herself and other employees safe. She was continuously found to not wear her safety gear. She conveniently left them in her car, or she didn't have them, or she had just taken them off. And not only that, she was reading unauthorized magazines during her work hours. On the next slide, we'll understand that due process is essential in validating just cause firings, as discussed by Harcourt, Hannay, and Lamb. McNamara was giving valid due process when she was giving many reprimands. She had a suspension before her firing, which means that she had a chance to make things better. And then she was given many opportunities and many discussions and many ways to know the safety regulations for the company. The next slide is we're going to learn about how termination needs to be validated through proper documentation and tracking. McNamara was fired because she did not follow the safety regulations. These regulations are validated in her contract and as well as explained to her through the many reprimands and as within the suspension paperwork. Within the next slide, we learn about safety. Safety is everyone's responsibility, from every single employee, from the low-level production, staff member, all the way up to the company executive. That's why it is within the rules and regulations and good for every single employee, including management, including unions, that all the rules are followed. If the rules are not followed, it is management's responsibility to intervene. That way that everybody knows what they need to do, when they need to do it, and if something does happen, management needs to be able to correct the situation and know where to proceed from there. Within our following slide, we understand that there are several different kinds of contracts within a union contract or within a contract of just being employed. There's implicit contracts and there's explicit contracts. The differences are that they are, either written down so the person knows exactly what they need to do, or it is a common just known, or from a person to person, what to need to do because you just know it, or you've explained it in the culture, or you've learned it from other, employees. However, management does recognize that they did fault on one of these particular contracts when they did not provide the proper sign in the lunchroom of the company to follow everyone that was in all languages spoken at the company. Currently, the safety sign only is listed in Spanish. However, there are as English-speaking people at the company, like myself and Miss McNamara. However, Miss McNamara never did take her lunch in the break room. She did not see that sign. However, management does take the responsibility and will take the further steps to replace that sign with proper signage with every single language within the company. Then, as we go along, we understand with the next slide that all employees must be treated fairly, equally, and reviewed in the dismissal process. There are very different reasons why McNamara was fired. Some of we've already discussed. However, additional reasons are she was a member of the company for 20 years. She should have known that the rules and regulations go from company to company, from place to place, even though she was just transferred to this location. She had been here for 6 months already, and because of her reprimands of sleeping through safety meetings and constantly not following the regulations and listening to what her supervisors say, she was fairly treated and equally. And just because she was here for 20 years doesn't mean that she's going to get away with things. So every employee, no matter what, has to follow the rules. And in conclusion, we just want to validate and verify that the company does feel that Ms. McNamara's firing was legal, and we did have just cause for her firing. If we do win this grievance, we do plan to make sure everybody reviews once again that these rules and regulations are fair to everyone. And we do this now. However, we will implement to make sure everybody understands and validates the rules and safety precautions of the company. A biblical application for this is we can't hold grudges against anyone. We have to treat everyone fairly, and it's up to everyone's responsibility to take care of each other and safety regulations within and without our employment procedures. Thank you, and I do hope you have a great day, and let's see how this grievance procedure turns out. Bye.